Hi everybody. I just wanted to talk today about some of my favorite stoner rock albums from the 90s. The 90s was a fantastic decade, a glorious decade for stoner rock, especially psych and desert type stoner rock. Really, really great for those that love that psychedelic sound, space rock, fuzzy, melodic psych sound. Man, what a glorious decade for that. Of course, Kyuss really launched that style of music in 1992 with the release of Blues for the Red Sun, which every self-respected stoner rock fan has this album. Of course, they followed that up with Welcome to Sky Valley in 1994. Of course, probably the best Kyuss album of all time. Still a legendary album. I'm just going to kind of go through the history of 90s stoner rock here. Of course, everyone knows these two albums. I'm going to go in order of release here. Some of my favorites that I own. These are just the ones that I own a CD of. There's lots of other great 90s stoner rock albums that I could talk about, but just talk about the ones I own. Of course, Kyuss has two albums from 92 and 94. We've got Clutch. This is a classic, absolutely mesmerizing album from 1995. They're self-titled. It was their second full-length album, and definitely their most stoner rock, psych rock album. It's like a total space psych desert rock album. Very groovy. Lots of funky, groovy stoner rock guitar on this. And the artwork pretty much tells you exactly what you're in store for. A very, very cool, spacey album. So if you get one Clutch album, if you haven't dug into Clutch, they're a very famous band, so I'm sure you know these guys. This is the one to get. If you're a stoner rock fan, yeah, that's the one to get. Of course, these guys are from Maryland, which has a long time music scene for heavy rock. Of course, they have the famous Doom, Maryland Doom scene. And Clutch was a very famous band in that stoner hard rock vein from Maryland. Back in the 90s, they released this in 95, and it's definitely a stoner rock gem. It's considered one of the founding albums of stoner rock of the 90s, along with, of course, Kyuss. So they released that, and of course you have Fu Manchu. They came along and released a couple great albums. Here we have In Search Of by Fu Manchu, 1996. Their most fuzzy, heavy fuzz album. I mean, their most stoner album in terms of just heavy fuzz. A very heavy, fuzz-drenched sound. If you haven't heard this, fantastic album. Of course, stoner rock artwork there with the cars. Very famous type of artwork for stoner rock with cars on it. And yeah, it's just a sweet album. It really is. Wah-drenched guitar, just pummeling fuzz. I mean, fuzz for 40 minutes straight. Of course, they followed that up with their most famous album, The Action Is Go, which was released in 1997. Famously, the first album with Brant Bjork on drums, who joined, obviously, after leaving Kyuss. So, this is a little less heavy on the fuzz drenching than the previous album, but it's still very much the same type of stoner desert sound. Just a little more streamlined, a little less heavy on the fuzz, and a little more just on the straight-ahead, accessible songwriting. Really great songwriting. The Action Is Go is really, really great. Now, I'm sure you know these albums. I mean, these are not underground albums, but these are just some of the best albums of 90s stoner rock. Some of the most famous ones. I couldn't find my Orange Goblin CD of their debut Frequencies from Planet 10. I couldn't find that album at all. I have it on CD, but I can't locate it. That was another great 90s stoner rock album. Of course, you have this band, 35007. The first band from Europe on this video. This is one of my all-time favorite Stoner Psych space albums. Oh my god! And this is a little more underrated. I mean, a little more obscure. You know, compared to the other albums, this one's not as well known. It's called Into the Void We Traveled, or self-titled, whatever, you know, both titles. I like to call it Into the Void We Traveled, but it's also a self-titled album. Their second album, released in 1997. Very, very good heavy psych, kind of progressive, just intense all the way through. It's very much like taking a trip into space, like an astronaut taking a trip into space. Just this soaring, proggy space psych. These guys are just known for creating a trip with their guitar. Boy, it's a beautiful, beautiful record, and pretty heavy too in points. They get pretty heavy. They speed it up, but they slow it back down. It has a fantastic closer called Locker. Locker is a 9-minute epic instrumental track. If you don't listen to any other song from the album, Locker is really, really a great psych trip. A great closing track. And the only instrumental track on the album, I believe. But the vocals are pretty damn good as well. I really like songs like Power Truth, Undo, Heard, Soul Machine. Really the entire album. Just fantastic. One of my favorite stoner rock albums. I happen to have got this CD for a much cheaper price. This is kind of an expensive CD to find, but I actually got this for a pretty good deal. I don't remember exactly what I paid, but it was much lower than all the other CDs, and it's because it had this written on it, and I guess I don't know what the hell that's all about. But from the Netherlands, a fantastic band. They have Tsunami as well, which came out a few years after this in the early 2000s. That one is a little more soft, more of just strict psych, and it's totally instrumental, I believe. So it's a lot like Locker on this album. It doesn't have the vocals, and it doesn't have the more hard-driving stoner rock that this album has. 35007, or Loose, as they can also be known as. Yeah, one of the most underappreciated bands in the stoner psych genre of all time. So check out that album. Of course, we have Los Natas, an Argentine South American band. They're from Argentina, and this is their debut album, Del Mar. Del Mar, of course, you look at the artwork, you know what you're getting. This is Kyuss Worship, right? These guys released this in 97, or no, 98. Yeah, they released this in 1998. So they clearly took inspiration from Kyuss, and a lot of people have criticized this album as being just a clone of Kyuss. And I agree that it does sound a lot like Kyuss, but it's done so well. You know, this album is just so wonderful. A beautiful album. Oh my god. I don't know if you've heard this album, but wow. Talk about all killer, no filler right there. Those are all fantastic songs, of course. 1980's, the fastest song on the album and the shortest song on the album. Very kind of like Green Machine by Kyuss. Of course, you have more drawn out songs. I Love You, Soma are both fantastic classics. Del Mar is a sweet song, as well as Negro. Yeah, this is a fantastic album. I already talked about their next album from 1999, which is just as good as this album, maybe even better. But Del Mar, if you're a fan of 90s stoner rock, this is a must-have album. Desert-infused the most desert rock album on this video, other than the Kyuss, of course. Los Natas, probably the best South American stoner rock band of all time. So check out Del Mar. Of course, we've got Red Giant. This is another one of the more underrated, obscure albums from the 90s that I have on CD. Ultra Magnetic Glowing Sound. I've been trying to get people to hear this album for a long time. I uploaded this to the channel many years ago. At one time I had it on the channel, but it still didn't get as many views as I think it deserves. Now it's on YouTube again, so go check out this album, Ultra Magnetic Glowing Sound, released in 1998. So we're getting to the end of the 90s now, but still more of this Heavy Psych infused. Of course, another album with, of course, spacey artwork. You can see why I chose my type of channel in terms of the avatar and everything like that, the theme of my channel with the astronaut guy. You can see why I chose that. I was influenced a lot by this space type stuff. All the artwork of some of these stoner rock albums that I love so much, the first ones that I really got to know, they're all like space, you know, rocket ships and astronauts and outer space. You know, it just fits this type of music so well. So that's kind of, obviously Gravity X by Truck Fighters was what made me select the artwork, but you know, artwork, some of the best artwork. You know, not only does stoner rock have some of the best riffs, but some of the coolest artwork as well. And that's one thing that modern stoner rock continues to do well, is create some pretty great artwork. So this album is 70 minutes long. They're from Cleveland, Ohio, Red Giant is. This is their second album and their most famous album, and their best album for sure. It's got 12 tracks. It actually doesn't have a bass player on it. Instead, you get dual guitar, dual piercing psych-infused guitar. Some of the greatest solos and riffs. I mean, it's a solo fest. I mean, there are so many solos, so many intricate solos from two guitars dueling on this album. Very thick space atmosphere to it. It does get pretty heavy as well. Another Midwestern stoner rock band. Great to see the Midwest representing. Ultra Magnetic Glowing Sound. Very underappreciated album. Just doesn't have the amount of fans that I think it deserves. So check out Ultra Magnetic Glowing Sound, please. And of course, Blind Dogs, The Last Adventures of Captain Dog. This one. Another fantastic 90s album. Of course, this one was recorded in 1999. I don't know if it was really put out in the 90s. I think it was put out in the early 2000s in like America, but I know they recorded it in 1999. Might not really count as a 90s rock album, but close enough, being recorded in 1999. Their best album by far as I'm concerned. First three songs are amazing. Thunder Groove, 10,000 Reasons, and Blend. Oh my god, the guitar work on this album is just a thing of beauty. Wish I Knew Which Side I'm On is amazing as well. Coming To, as well as Sun, those are also really great, longer, drawn out, psych heavy songs. Trips. So if you haven't heard Captain Dog, check out this album. Their debut, The Last Adventures of Captain Dog. I just wanted to talk about some of these bands from the 90s stoner rock scene. Some of my favorites that I have on CD. There's a lot more that I don't have. I didn't cover some because I made another video about purely 1999 stoner rock, as that album had a lot of that year had a lot of my favorites in it. But 99 closed the year off with a plethora of great releases. So from the beginning of the 90s all the way through the end, you had this fantastic heavy psych and desert-infused stoner rock coming out. So those albums, if you haven't heard them, I know you've heard some of them, but check out all of them. They're classics of stoner rock, classics of heavy psych, desert style, space style. For those that love their psychedelic riffs, their intense stoner rock, desert rock, that atmosphere of desert and space, it was never captured better than in the 90s, I can tell you that. They really did a good job in the 90s of atmosphere. So check out those albums. That's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Thanks for watching. Doom on, guys. I'll talk to you soon.